your canning process by washing your jars and lids really well, especially if you have used the jars before. Make sure you look for any nicks or cracks, as those jars need to be discarded. But make sure you wash them really good, even if they are new ones. That way you make sure that you get any dirt or grime and bacteria off of the jars to reduce the risk of botulism and bacteria that would spoil your food. You also need to make sure that you wash your fruits and vegetables really well, as they tend to have some bugs on them, or they could have dirt on them, or even fertilizer from the garden, so you want to make sure you get them good and clean. A way to do this is to add 2 tablespoons to 1/4 cup of white vinegar in a sink or a bowl of cold water, and then swoosh it around and rub off all that gunk that could be on them. The other thing you could do is use a scrubber and some dish soap. Next, you want to sterilize your jars. There are 2 ways to do this. The first one, though, is kind of controversial. Some people believe that it works out just fine, while the National Center for Home Preserving does not recommend that you do this in the oven. It is recommended by those who do it this way to sterilize your wet jars in the oven between 225 degrees and 275 degrees for 20 minutes. You want to make sure your jars are wet, though, to help with uneven heating. The second method is submerging your jars in boiling water. This is a recommended way of sterilizing your jars by the National Center of Home Preserving. So what you want to do is get your water to boiling, and then you want to reduce it to a simmer once your jars are inside. And you want to go ahead and simmer your jars for at least 10 minutes, and this heating process will kill all microorganisms. Also, you want to make sure you keep your jars hot until you're ready to fill them. I have personally used both sterilization methods and have not had any adverse reactions to any kind of botulism or abnormal bacteria that would be growing inside my jars that has spoiled any of our food. It is important you choose the method right for you. Next, gather up your banana peppers, a cutting board, and a really sharp knife, and begin cutting up those banana peppers into rings, removing the stems as well as the seeds as you prefer. Also, remember to remove any blemishes and or overripe areas. This step can also be done the day before, and place the rings into a container in the refrigerator. This may save you a little bit of time on the day that you actually do the processing. Measure out 11 cups of banana peppers and set to the side. I always save heating up the vinegar solution for the last step, as it can be a bit overwhelming to my senses. Have a pot ready to go on the stove. Add 6 cups of white vinegar. Then add 2 cups of water. Next, you want to add 3 cloves of garlic. If using chopped garlic from a jar like I did, 3 teaspoons is the same as 3 cloves of garlic. Or you can add to your tastes like. I tend to add a little bit more and added 3 tablespoons. A tip to remember, fresh cloves of garlic are more potent than that from a jar, so it always helps to add a little extra to make up for that. Bring the mixture to a boil and boil for 5 minutes until the garlic has infused in the liquid. At this time, you can discard the garlic, or you can do like I do and add a little bit to each jar. Prepare your lids in hot water. Make sure the water is not boiling. You can put them on simmer in a saucepan on the stove or use a tea kettle like I did. When removing jars, turn off all fans as a draft or change in temperature can cause the jars to break. This is also known as temperature shock. Also place jars on a towel on the counter for the same reason. Removing one jar at a time to fill is recommended to reduce changes in temperatures before adding back to the pot. When moving quickly, I am able to do more than one at a time. Add a pinch or up to 1 teaspoon of salt to each jar. This helps with preserving color and taste. Fill jars with banana peppers, leaving 1/2 inch of headspace, as this is the recommended amount for this recipe. Not enough headspace can result in fluid leaking, as well as a poor seal. Too little headspace can leave your food discolored. Also, it may not seal correctly due to not enough time to drive out the air that's in the jar. Headspace is the space between the top of the jar and the food and/or liquid. Using your funnel, add your mixture to the jar, also making sure not to go above 1/2 inch of headspace. Use your debubbler to remove any air pockets or bubbles that may be within your liquid and food. Then remeasure with your headspace tool. You may need to add more liquid, as when the bubbles are removed, a lot of times the liquid is no longer at the same height as it was previously. Use a wet washcloth or paper towel to remove all residue or stickiness around the rim of the jar. Skipping this step could cause your jars not to have a good seal. Now use your magnetic wand to lift the lid out of the hot water and place on your jar. Then grab your ring and lower it down onto your jar, twisting finger tight. Grab your set of tongs and gently lift up your jar and place into the hot water bath. Repeat these steps for each jar that you plan to put in your canner. Once all of your jars are filled and placed in the canner and you have brought your pot to a boil, set your timer for 10 minutes. At the end of your 10 minutes, turn off the heat and let your jars settle for 5 minutes. Once they have settled for 5 minutes, remove them gently with your tongs out of the watering pot and put on a towel on the counter. Remember, they could still get temperature shock, so you want to make sure you have a barrier between your counter and the hot jar. Once you have removed all of your jars, leave them still and sitting in the same position for 24 hours. With moving the jars, you may end up with not a tight seal, so make sure they stay in the same spot for 24 hours. I know it is hard to not want to check your seals, but make sure you also do not touch the top of the jars, as this could also impair the seal. Get excited to listen to all the noise making that your jars will make as they seal, as this noise is music to every canner's ears. Once your 24 hours has passed, you can remove your bands, and you should label your jar with the name of the item that's in it, as well as the date that you did the canning. Canning peppers is a great first choice for learning how to use your water bath canner. I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I hope you learned a lot. If you have any questions or concerns, please put some in the comments below. I look forward to seeing you for Canning 103. If you like this video, I encourage you to subscribe as well as share our videos. Subscribing to our channel as well as sharing our videos is the best way for you to help us here on our homestead. Thank you for hanging out with me today, and until next time, many blessings.